Hello, my name is Bob Nelms. I'm president and founder of Failsafe-Network. And I'd like to talk about what executives need to know about latent cause analysis. Let me begin by going to our website and showing you the home page of our website and actually focusing on that top banner there, which says root cause analysis that's capable of changing the world. Now, I can just imagine how that sounds to you. Root cause analysis that's capable of changing the world? That sounds kind of grandiose, doesn't it? But what would you do if you were me and you thought you had something that was capable of changing the world? Because we do. That's what we have. And although you might not be interested in changing the world, I bet you're interested in changing your own world. So before I get into the nitty-gritty of this, I'd like you to hear what people call our method. This isn't what we call our method. This is what we've heard people say about our method. It's the accountability method. The culture change method. A method that focuses on the soul, introspection at all levels, and a method that's been ahead of its time until now. I've been in business for a long time. I've been doing this since 1974 and in business since 1985, and I know my average client's pain points. As I go through this, think of which one of these pain points are your biggest pain points. Disappointment in current causal learning processes. A destructive culture of blame, finger-pointing, and defensiveness that needs to end. Performance stagnation. An increasing awareness that personal accountability issues must be addressed. Our uniqueness, because we are probably the most unique root cause analysis company out there, and we're proud of it. Our uniqueness is we do not avoid people issues. In fact, we focus on them. We actually use things that go wrong to create a culture of personal accountability. And probably not the way you might think, not by blaming. In fact, our personal accountability process bans blame, but it requires introspection, which I will talk about a lot more in a couple of minutes. And we have one causal learning process that can address any size or type of problem. And its focus is on establishing personal accountability. So the agenda for this next 40 minutes is, first I'll share my journey. I want you to know where I've come from and why I feel the way I feel and why we do the things we do in trying to learn from things that go wrong. And then I'll suggest what you as executives could do to support the potential, the phenomenal potential of latent cause analysis. My journey. I'm a Texas Aggie. I went to Texas A&M. I graduated in 1969 as an aerospace engineer. Right out of college, I was employed by McDonnell Douglas. This was the Vietnam era, and the plane we were flying in Vietnam was the F-4 Phantom. It wasn't doing very well in Vietnam. We were trying to make them more aerodynamically agile. And I did that until 1974. In 1979, I got out of aerospace voluntarily, and I became employed by Allied Chemical Corporation in Hopewell, Virginia, as a reliability engineer until 1979, and that's when things started changing for me. I started becoming fascinated with the mechanics of failure. In 1985, Allied Corporation established a corporate-level reliability center because what we did in that one chemical plant that I was hired into was so phenomenally successful that Allied wanted to do the same thing in all of its major plants. So they pulled me into the reliability center, and I started going all over the country and Canada, actually investigating things that went wrong. I became the reliability center's root cause analysis lead during that period of time. In 1985, I became so enamored with why things went wrong, and I started developing some rather unique approaches that I formed Failsafe, my company, in 1985. My first client was Morton Thiokol. Morton Thiokol was the manufacturer of the solid rocket boosters that exploded when the Challenger exploded in 1986. I was there working when this thing exploded. And that explosion changed my life. What I mean by that is that explosion caused me to dig deeper beyond just the mechanics of things that went wrong. In the 1990s, I wrote 2 books about my experiences. I've written numerous articles and hundreds and hundreds of presentations. I'm a public speaker, a seminar leader. I started developing affiliations in 2011 because I became too busy to investigate things myself. I was too busy teaching. I hired my daughter in 2014. She's a Virginia Tech mechanical engineer. I continued developing affiliations in 2015. The 2 people on your left there are the United States affiliates. Then we have an affiliate in Japan. We also have a new affiliate in Iran. But my journey is what I wanted to get to here. You know, obviously we are all on a journey in this lifetime, and we're all on a path. And it's rather fascinating to think that we're kind of all on different paths. The path that I'm on took me somewhere that it didn't take you yet. Just like your path took you in places where I haven't been yet. I want to share the path that I've been on, and then you'll understand why I feel this is so important. The formational part of my path actually started at Allied Chemical Corporation in Hopewell, Virginia, in a nylon plant. Remember, I'm right out of aerospace. I'm a very young man, but I was hired into the maintenance department of a chemical plant. And within the first month working in that maintenance department, people would come up to me and tell me, you know, Bob, if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to progress up the corporate ladder, you've got to get out of maintenance. You got to get into operations. That's the future. Maintenance focuses on failure. Operations focuses on success. And I'm telling you, there was something about that hit me right in the face in 1974 that I didn't like. Maintenance focuses on failure. Operations focuses on success. And failure is a dead end. Immediately I knew that wasn't true. I don't know how. I just knew. I have come to realize that everything we need to know about improving our lives is contained within our failures. Everything. No one learned anything ever without either themselves or someone else having failed first. So with this attitude in our minds in that chemical plant, and by the way, there was probably 15 of us who felt like this, we started looking at things that went wrong very differently. I want to give you an example right now of what we went through back then. An event would happen in that chemical plant. It could be any event. It could be an injury. It could be a mechanical issue, a quality issue, anything. But I'm going to pick this. A positive displacement pump failed, for example. And we dug into it, and we understood the mechanics or the physics of it first. Let me explain what we found as an example. This positive displacement pump failed because it seized. It just stopped turning. Well, why did it seize? Well, we dug into it and we gathered the evidence, and we found that the internal pieces grew and came in contact with the casing. Well, why did the internal pieces grow? Well, because they got too hot. Well, why did the internal pieces get too hot? Because the lubrication broke down. It wasn't as it should have been. What do you mean the lubrication broke down? Well, there was 10W30 in there instead of 5W30. And to make a long story short, that's why it got too hot, and that's why it seized. And we started looking at everything that went wrong through that filter, if you will. How did things happen? And let's fix the how. Let's make sure 10W30 never gets in there again. But there was a problem in stopping there. Although that particular pump never failed again for that reason, other things started happening in other parts of the plant, and the failure rate in that plant kept rising, even though we were understanding the physics of things that went wrong. So we said back then, let's dig deeper. So, this might sound obvious now, but back then it wasn't obvious. We dug a little deeper and we found out that everything that goes wrong in a system created by humans can be traceable back to humans. Everything. Test it. You probably already know that. Anything that happens at home, anything that happens at work, if it happened on a system that we've created, we'll be able to trace its causes back to people. And we went, wow. I mean, we tested it on everything that went wrong, and it was always true. And in this example, an oiler physically put 10W30 in that pump instead of 5W30. That's how it got in there. An oiler did it. Now, of course, if we stop there, all we're going to get into is the blame game. And we knew that. That was obvious back then. We knew we couldn't stop there. Intuitively, we knew there was a reason why the oiler put 10W30 in there and 5W30, so we dug deeper. And we realized, and this was over a period of years now, we realized that everything people do is caused by the thoughts going through their mind whenever they did what they did. I'll use myself as an example. Look at me right now. My hands are going like this because my thoughts are telling my hands to go like this. The words coming out of my voice are coming out of my voice because of the thoughts that are going through my mind that are making me talk. That man put 10W30 in there instead of 5W30 because his thoughts told him to. So let's understand his thoughts. Now, the right attitude here is, we get the oiler and we ask him, do you remember the thoughts that went through your mind when you were putting lubricant inside of that pump? Not, what the heck were you thinking? No, that's not the right way. It's really, do you remember the thoughts that went through your mind? And he told us, because they always want to tell you, because it helps explain why they did what they did. And he said, well, it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I got to the pump. I drained the oil out. I look up the spec sheet. It says 5W30. That's what I'm supposed to put in there. I go to my cart. There's no 5W30 on the cart. There's only 10W30. Well, what am I going to do? I'm supposed to put 5W30. There's only 10W30. The shop is 15 minutes away. That's 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back. That'll take me to, 3:30, 4 o'clock by the time I get the actual oil. That pushes me past shift change. No overtime is allowed. What am I going to do? Well, heck, my car calls for 5W30, and I put 10W30 in there all the time, so I'm just going to put the 10W30 in there, and blop, it goes in. Those thoughts caused that pump to seize. It's our thoughts that cause everything. Everything that you look around you that's good, everything that you see that isn't good is caused by this. This is such a powerful concept. So once we know the thoughts, the actual thoughts that cause the problem, now the gold mine starts. Because we're going to get that guy and his supervision and maybe some peers into a room, and we're going to start brainstorming. What thoughts should have gone through your mind or his mind at that particular point in time, which would have caused 5W30 to get put into that pump? And I guarantee you, when you ask that question, there's going to be a struggle. And the struggle is good, because that means you're going to understand the dilemma that this guy was in. What thoughts should have gone through his mind at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when he realized he had to put 5W30 in there and all he had was 10W30 on the cart? And they debate and they argue, and they perhaps might have said, well, he should have thought, I need to do the right thing. But overtime isn't allowed. So I guess I'm going to have to tell the guy in the next shift, who's in the break room right now, I guess I'm going to have to tell him I didn't put any oil in that pump. It's still sitting down. When you bring the cart out there, you're going to have to hit this one first and make sure you have 5W30 on the cart. And then this oiler says to himself, as a matter of fact, I should have made sure that I had 5W30 in the cart as well before he even went out. Actual thoughts, desired thoughts. Actual thoughts, desired thoughts. And as soon as you know the difference, you are at a point where you can really do something now. And this is true at home, it's true at work, it's true for anything that goes wrong. We had a man who actually thought this, and he should have been thinking this. Wow. What is it? What is it about the way we are? What is it about the way we are that accounts for the gap in those thoughts? And I guarantee you, when you ask the people that are in the room who have been contributing to this, when you ask them that question, they're going to have an answer. And it's not going to be just one answer. They're going to have a lot of answers to this. And we log them all. And then we vote on the top 3. But we don't want to stop with the we. What is it about the way we are? Because it's too easy for a human being to wiggle out of that one. They might say, well, they're like that, but I'm not. So the real power of an LCA is when we go to this question. What is it about the way I am? Everybody involved now, including the oiler. What is it about the way I am that accounts for those thoughts, the gap in those thoughts? Imagine doing this. Imagine doing this over and over and over again. Every time something went wrong, asking these questions. What is it about the way we are that contributes to the problems around us, and what are we going to do about it? Over and over and over. And more importantly, what is it about the way I am that contributes to the problems around me, and what am I going to do about it? I know what will happen when an organization or family or whatever does this. I know, personally. It changes you. It establishes a culture of personal accountability. Now, along the road, along the pathway, my journey took us directly to two major obstacles. I mean, this might sound all good in theory, and it really was good in theory, but there admittedly were two major obstacles. And the first obstacle was this. Few people accepted our conclusions. Oh, we'd go in there and we'd do all of this. We'd figure out how it happened. We figured out who did it. And we pointed out, what is it about the way you are contributed to this? But few people accepted our conclusions. They'd argue with everything. That's not the right answer. You change this in the report. That's not correct. Especially our conclusions about the way you are. How dare you point your finger about the way we are? In other words, the way we used to do it was perceived as finger pointing. We'd come in from the outside and we'd tell you what caused your problem and what you had to do about it. And the second major obstacle, because this was a big one, but the second major obstacle was very much related to the first. Fear of being blamed. No human being anywhere in all over the world wants to be blamed. That's just how we're made up. Now, the breakthrough, because we were confronted with these obstacles for years, the breakthrough ideas came about 10 years ago. I won't get into how it came about, but I will tell you it was through no genius of ours. It just happened, almost trial and error wise. The thing that broke through these items first was this. Instead of us telling you what caused the problem and what you needed to do about it, we turned the whole thing upside down. Evidence would be gathered, and then we'd identify who needed to see the evidence, and then we'd ask them. We'd ask the involved people to define their own causes and their own action items. This way, we don't have to sell anything. It's theirs. And this is how it would go. After seeing all the evidence, these people would say, we think the following are the causes of this event. And they would state the causes. We have a little structure that we put behind this to make it work very well. But in essence, this is what we do. And this is what we're going to do about it. We asked the involved people to define their own causes and action items. A huge difference in the way most investigations are done. And then secondly, the second major idea is this one. Shut down blame. I got to say something here I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. If I was the CEO of your company, no, I shouldn't say this because I've never been a CEO, and I don't know really what I would do. But I think that if I was the CEO of your company, I would put an announcement out that would sound something like this. If anything goes wrong in my organization, there is to be no blame anywhere. The only time you have to fear for your job is if you are blaming. No blame. Shut it out, shut it down. If there is a root cause of everything that goes wrong, it's blame. When we're all blaming, you can't see yourself. Shut down blame. However, you have to hear this part. If I was the CEO, I would say no blame, however, required introspection. Everybody involved in the incident will be required to not blame, but to look at themselves as part of the problem. I cannot re-emphasize this enough. No blame. required introspection. These two things, this and asking the people involved to define their own causes, have been an absolute breakthrough for us in learning from things that go wrong. Some quotes from people that have gone through our classes and that actually have done this. LCA, latent cause analysis, requires people to see themselves as part of a problem and does not allow anyone to blame any other person or thing. It seems to me that this is the ultimate in personal accountability. Another quote, as far as I know, this is the only cause analysis method that addresses personal accountability, and it does it head on. So in summary, my journey took me here. We learned to actually focus on things that go wrong through an intense evidence-driven learning process that requires introspection and bans blame to create this culture of proactive personal accountability. I'm so excited about this, I can hardly stand it. So that's my journey. So I'm going to suggest what you, Mr. Executive, could do to support the potential of latent cause analysis, because honestly, I cannot imagine a greater potential than what we're talking about here. What could you do to support the potential of latent cause analysis? Well, if everything that goes wrong can be traced back to things people do or don't do, for example, if something goes wrong in your organization, I'm going to tell you right now, and you already know this, you're going to be able to trace its causes back to, for example, these two people. And the next time something goes wrong, you'll be able to trace its causes back to two other people, or three other, or four other. And the next time, other people. And the next time, other people. And so on, and so on. And if that's true, and if everything that we do or don't do is caused by the way we are, everything that I do is caused by the way I am. I know that. Everything you do is caused by the way you are. Everything these two people did is caused by the way they are and is influenced by the way everyone else is. Right? So if that's true, then wouldn't it be nice to learn what is it about the way we are that causes problems before a major incident? Do we have to wait for somebody to die before we learn what is it about the way I am that contributed to that death? Wouldn't it be nice if all of us learned the answer to this question? All of us, everyone, everywhere, at all levels? By looking at small problems? Can you learn what is it about the way I am by looking at small problems? Oh, yeah. So what could you do to support the potential of latent cause analysis? Mr. Executive, encourage everyone at all levels to answer, what is it about the way I am that contributes to the problems around me, and what am I going to do about it? Every time something goes wrong, especially on little things, starting with you. Now I'm pausing here because I'm remembering something that happened to me maybe 5 years ago in a refinery on the East Coast. And I want to share it with you. I got a call from this refinery who I had been working with. I trained a lot of their people. The refinery manager called me up and said, "We'd like you to come up here, Bob, and suggest to us how we can get our people looking at themselves faster." And I said to the refinery manager, "Well, just do what I taught you to do in the training. That'll get you where you need to go." And he said, I need to get there faster. It's taken too long. So I didn't know what to suggest. So I got an affiliate. I was working with an affiliate back then, and I asked him if he had any thoughts, and he did. He had a phenomenal idea. I loved the idea. So I called the plant manager back up, and I said, I'd like to come up, and I'd like to talk to you and your refinery leadership team, 6 of them. So we drive up there to this refinery on the East Coast, and there they were, the 6 refinery managers, including the refinery manager, and I turned it over to the affiliate who came up with the idea, and the affiliates looked at them and said, if you want everyone in this plant to look at themselves as part of their problems, I suggest you do it first. And they looked at him and they said, what do you mean? And he said, well, here's my idea. Your team, there's 6 of you on your team here. You have a leader, the refinery manager, and his direct reports. Pick something that happens within your team, something that goes wrong within your team. Anything. It doesn't have to be big. Anything. And understand it. Understand why it happened. And then every one of you look at yourself as part of the problem. Answer this question. What is it about the way I am that contributed to this problem, and what am I going to do about it? And start with the plant manager. He can answer first, and then the direct reports. And then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. And when you get the feel for it, because it's easy, then ask the direct reports to do it with their immediate teams. And then when their direct reports get the feel of it, ask them to drive it down to their immediate teams. In other words, lead by example. And I wish I had a videotape of what happened in the office of that refinery. And they were fidgeting. They got nervous. And they said to the affiliate that was making the presentation, maybe you misunderstood. We wanted you to suggest how they can look at themselves as part of their problems fast, not us. They're the problem, not us. They're where the problems happen, out there in the field, in the middle management, not us. And the affiliate that I was working with was this big guy, and he got redder and redder. I thought he was going to have a stroke. Finally, I had to take over and try to support him. And to make a long story short, they shut us down. They did not like the idea. They told us to go away. Honestly, that refinery was sold. If I tell you who they were sold to, you might figure out who it is. And then the refinery was shut down. They died. Now I'm telling you that story because I want to make a point. The point is, I like to answer this question. What could you do to destroy the phenomenal potential of latent cause analysis? What could you do to destroy it? Refuse. Refuse to lead by example. Blame instead of looking at yourselves. So I hope you see by now that we have something here that's capable of changing your world because its focus is on changing your people. Because when your people change, of course, including you, everything else changes. So in conclusion, the ultimate goal of LCA is to shift from a culture of focusing on big problems to focusing on small problems. From highly trained elitist leaders to everyone is learning. From sophisticated computer-based investigative methods to simple yet probing investigative methods. From an occasionally used tool to something that has become a way of seeing everything. From something that highlights equipment and system type causes only to something that helps people understand themselves as causes. From RCA teams come in and define causes and recommended actions to the people that were involved define causes and agree on their own actions. From everyone looking outward to everyone looking inward. From it's your fault to it's partially my fault. From upper levels blaming lower levels. From to upper levels seeing themselves as part of the problem. From lower levels blaming upper levels. To lower levels seeing themselves as part of their problems. From small problems are not important. To unresolved small problems will cause larger problems. From it's someone else's fault and there's nothing I need to do about it. To it's partially my fault and there is something I must do about it. What are some people saying who have been through our classes? I wish more employees from my facility could have attended to make it easier to implement the 300 employees. I wish everyone could be open-minded and willing enough to give the latent cause experience a genuine fighting chance. Only then will true transformation occur. I wish we had been exposed to this process years earlier. We hear that all the time. I like the content of the program. I also believe it has the potential to change the culture. I like that I came in here with a notion of what I thought I was getting into, and I was completely surprised. We hear that all the time as well. I wish my company would take this process and use it for safety, loss generation, and culture, ultimately eliminating the three processes we have now. I thoroughly enjoyed the class. It was some of the best training I have taken. I hope we get to apply the training. I wish to send my 4 supervisors to the training in 2016. I like the way an LCA opened my eyes to see myself as part of the problem, instead of always searching for the root of the problem in other areas. I wish all of the company had a chance to go through this class. I like the things this class brought out of me that I need to work on. I may be part of the problem. I like the no blame. I like your stories. I wish upper management would experience the opportunity to change by going through the class. You've been listening to a one-sided YouTube presentation right now. Of course, I know that. There's no way for you to dialogue like there is in a live session with executives. Please either write something on the comments on the YouTube comment board, or if you have any questions or comments at all, there is our email address. I'd love to hear them. We reply to everything. I thank you so much for your attention. Bye.